Hey y'all, so today I'm going to be showing y'all how I paint or actually impress an image into a candle. So these are baptism candles that I usually make. The things that you'll need, obviously measure out the picture that you want. I'm going to use tape to tape it on there. The colors that I use are gold, red, that should be black, I'm going to change it, and white. Usually the pillar candles that I use are 3 by 6, so 3 inches, 6 tall. These are just my paint brushes. This is usually a brand that I find at Walmart. The palette, of course, use whatever you have. Paper plate also works. These are paint brushes that I recommend. A flat brush, smaller flat brush, just to be able to get the corners. That has kind of a straightish line. Another one that I use is a kind of thin rounded one, and then this very skinny thin one is the one that I do most of the outlines with. All right, so let's start. Before I forget, I did add some things. Make sure that you have a cup of water. I usually use glass because it's easy to wash out and it doesn't tip over easily. I use a pencil. Other people use a pen. So there's different ways to be able to start. It's important to measure out if it's straight or not, because if not, your whole candle is lopsided and crooked. So I'm going to hold that and then I'm going to take it down. And then this blue should tell me how much I have on both sides. It should be pretty even. So how about a fingers from both sides? So that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm gonna do the sides. Because remember, if you don't do the sides, then your paper is gonna be like moving with all these flaps. And I'm gonna put it right at the edge where I'm going to draw that line. I'll just put it down. And then let's do the other side. So I always start here just because I go from like left to right. And I am imprinting at an angle just so that I get like a thicker imprint. It's not very sharp at all. This is the dullest pencil that I was able to find. So I am going to imprint it a little bit more so that I can see that it's sticking. I don't know if you're able to see it or not. Okay, so since her name is gonna be Natalia, I just put a little line. I didn't imprint, I just kind of sketched it or drafted it, and I think it's spaced out good enough, and I'm going to go ahead and imprint it. So it's just regular handwriting. Then I'm gonna put a little cross here in the corner. Okay, so I think that's it for the design. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove so that I can start painting process. So this is a hard Just gotta be careful not to scratch or take off any corners of the candle, because I have taken off some corners before. I usually just do one side. So if you can see or hear, this is going to be super imprinted, and before I take it completely off, oh, I forgot the corners, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in, and I'm gonna do the corners. Very, very important. That's gonna be like the frame. So I think that's it. Let me go and start undressing this candle. And let's see if I forgot anything else. So before you completely peel it off, I'm just going to look in the light to make sure. I don't know if you can see that, but there is an imprint there. I see the ear. Okay, looks good. So if you want to do multiple candles, if it's not too broken up, you can use this stencil again. As you can see, I just put them on my painting container. All right, so the acrylic paint that I am using is this metallic classic gold by Craft Paint. That's one of my favorite ones to use. So I only put very small dab, and then I'm gonna go ahead and try to just like freehand it is. Alright, so now I've cleaned my brush. In case anyone's asking or wants to know, this is a 3/8 brush, 10 millimeter. Okay, so now we're going to do the inside part. This acrylic, as I said, it dries pretty quick. So as long as you see that it's mostly dry, if you just kind of tap it, and especially in the thick areas, if that's dried, then it should be pretty good. So that's the reason why I like to do thin layers, because if you do thick layers, the top part dries and then the middle doesn't dry as well, and sometimes if you touch it, it's kind of like nail polish. It just, you know, it imprints itself, so I don't like that. That's why I like to stick to thin layers. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. has like a good thick layer all around, no real see-through spots. Should be okay. All right, I'm gonna wait for it to dry, and then we'll start doing the red. All right, so the white is fully dry, and I gave it a few more seconds just because I did put thick layers. So now we're going to go, and this is why you don't want to use too much paint because it just goes to waste. So this is like it's going to be where the blood is gushing out, and I like to do this one really red as well. So I'm gonna leave that to dry, and then I'm almost done. The next part is the hardest part. This is just the foundation colors. So we're making this pink horchata over here with all this color paint. So let this dry. I also like to put my pencils on the sides of it, or the paints, just to keep it from moving side to side. All right, we'll be back. All right, so now we're gonna start the hardest part, which is following the outline. Everything is dry to the touch, so I'm gonna start on one side and then I'm gonna move my way to the right. So I'm using the thinnest brush. I used to just custom cut them, if that makes sense. Like if they were too long, I don't like them too long. And I usually just start like somewhere on here. And so this one you have to make sure you have good light just so that you can follow along. I know your hands sometimes get shaking. The amount of pressure that you put on it makes a difference too. So like I'm putting medium pressure, so that means the line, I need to have the same amount of pressure, because if I put too thin, then it's too skinny, and that's what makes it look kind of off and weird. So you can just skinny, just go and retouch. So it's just something you're just gonna have to learn, like your hand pressure once I go to the points and I kind of thin it out a little bit. But you should be able to see the lines that you're following very clearly. And I kind of just try to use one stroke as I go. So I would say with the ridges, just be careful to try to keep the paint within the ridges, because if not, then it starts looking kind of like, I don't know if you can see it, but it looks off. like good enough. So then over here, I'm just gonna add more little flicks for texture. And then I'm gonna add some here as well, just because there's a lot of white there and to fill in. And I'm just going to do that. What about the neck? I don't know. Why is it wrong? Probably going the wrong way. I know it looks weird, right? But just going to try pretend it looks good. Alright, so that's it for the inside. Is pretty simple candle. There's a lot of details I don't do. I used to do color blending, but that would take me forever and the colors were always different, so I didn't like that. So that's why I stick to the plain white and black. I know it's not as faithful to the actual image, but painting is not that easy, so fake to make it. All right, I'm gonna let this dry and then be back and do the outline and we're done. All right, so now I'm going to do the letters. Now I didn't use the old paint just because it did dry out for a bit. The top is dry, but the middle, even though if it's kind of wet, it's gonna get clumpy. So for the letters, I don't want to put too much paint on the brush, just because it can get clumpy as well too. And I think that's it for the names. All right, I'm gonna let that dry, and then now we'll be done with the frame. All right, now for the final step, we are going to simply trace this. All right, I think I am done. So that's it, and we are done. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'm gonna seal the paint, because if not, if you touch it, it's gonna start peeling because of the grease of your hands, blah blah blah. So I do use an acrylic sealer around it just to maintain it. And there you have it. Go ahead and get your stuff, your candle, and start painting. Bye.